It's blowing out. That's the problem.
Here, try this one and see if this one will do.
We need a wastebasket up here for all these.
We'll cross our fingers.
Good morning. Isn't the energy from the Opportunity Fair just infectious? In the best way, not the worst way? Welcome, welcome. I hope that you had a moment to be in there. If not, please know that after the service, we'll continue with coffee and opportunities and lots of ways that you can be involved. But what I want to say now is welcome. Welcome in here, welcome at home from wherever you're joining us. Our practice is wholeness, and your whole self, your full presence, your holy sexuality, the deep truth of your gender, and the blessing of your body is welcome here. And if by any chance you arrive this morning uncertain of who you are, whom you love, in discernment about deeper truths and self-knowledge, you are especially welcome. This is a sanctuary for searchers. This is holy ground that we create together every time we gather. We are the blessing, and our covenant is wholeness and compassion. It is so good to be together. So let's take a moment to begin in a space of gratitude. For example, gratitude for our teachers and our children's caregivers, to Simon, who's managing the tech and helping us bring folks in from wherever they're joining us, Dr. Les, and our amazing choir. Look at how big our choir is. Isn't this amazing? To all our greeters and ushers, people like Vinny, who are helping make sure as best as possible you have a seat. Speaking of, if you're in the pews, can you scooch a little bit towards the center so folks have a place to sit on the ends if they're joining us? We can bring our bodies close. Such a good problem to have. And of course, we have the gift of our worship associate today, Joyce Hooley-Gingrich. So please know that our people are our treasure. And if you haven't already found a place where you can help us create community, we do hope that you're thinking seriously about how you can share your gifts. Because every person is sacred, but every gift is needed. All right. It's also a very fun place, by the way, to lend a helping hand. If you do something with and for us, do you think that it's a fun place to be? Yeah. Exactly. We might even throw you a surprise birthday party. You never know. But for right now, I want to invite you just to pause for a minute. Even with the excitement in your bodies, take a moment to ground, to find yourself in this place for this hour with these people. Settle your heart and let us receive the gift of our opening music.
Thank you, choir. And now, Zaylee and Jill, would you come forward to help with our chalice lighting? Thank you. Our chalice lighting today comes from Ma Teresa Gustillo Gallardo. Let us reach the place of self, the place that is not alien to truth. Let us be washed over with peace and serenity, with fierce longing for light and heart, with living strength flowing in our veins, bringing ourselves into fearlessness and into trust. And now please rise in body or spirit as you are able and join us in singing hymn number 1017, Building a New Way.
Are we on? Oh, we are. Hello, 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 hello. I want to see everybody who's here. Who's ready for some story time? Anyone? One? Oh, a couple. Woohoo! We see some. Terrific. Thank you. Good. I love it. This isn't really a story. It doesn't have a plot, actually. Now I'm disappointing people, right? Oh, bummer. Well, actually, I have a question for you. How many people in here, anyone who's in here, how many of you have a body? How many of you? Oh, I do too. How many of you don't have a body? One disincorporated soul, a couple, floating around. How many of you, oh, some more, they're growing, it's infectious. How many of you have feelings? Does anybody have any feelings? I have feelings. Sometimes it's really helpful to remember that we have a body and that we have feelings. This is some time about feelings. Does anybody have an idea of how this person is feeling? Silly. We're going to have some feelings geniuses in here. How about this next person? Scared. Oh my goodness. That is a very scared person. That thunder must have been loud. How about this next person? Actually, you're close. You're very close. This kiddo Let me tell you what happened to her. She was supposed to go over to her best friend's house for a play date, but her friend got sick. How is she feeling? Disappointed. Frustrated, maybe, right? We'll see frustration later. So she's a little disappointed. How about the next person? Happy. Absolutely. And what have we got here? Sad. Yeah. I thought that this kiddo looked a little bit like the kid that was bored too, but we're not showing the bored kid because none of us are bored, so. What is that kiddo feeling? Angry. How do we know? The eyebrows, I think so. Anything else as a hint? What do you think? Red. He's got a red face. What do you think? His hands are in fists. Exactly. Do you have something? What do you see? Yeah, they're getting tight. So there's ways, right? Let's see what the next kiddo's feeling. You know? Jealousy. Why is she jealous? Let me go back here and then I'll come up. Oh, you're new. I'm going to come here and then to you. Yes. Yeah. Is that what you were going to say too? You can see that there's a grown-up giving some attention to someone else and she's feeling jealous. Let's keep it going. What's the next one? Huh? Oh, terrific. I'll come to you. Excited. Yeah. How do we know this person is excited? Why do you think we know they're excited? Because they're jumping up and down. Yes. And? Yeah, absolutely. This kiddo, whatever their gender, looks very energetic. All right, let's go to I think the last one. Is that right? I think last one. Somebody is so good at this. Proud, absolutely. How do we know they're proud? Dressed up, but we got a little bit of the Superman pose too, don't we? Right? Like this. Right? Yeah, so one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is how we live in these bodies and kind of navigate the world. And sometimes we do it by moving our bodies, right? And sometimes we do it with our feelings. But it's important to think about those things. And now what we're going to think about is singing you all to your classes. And I want to invite, if you are newer, if you want to go with your kiddos as we sing so you can meet their teachers, find out where to pick your kiddo up, we're going to do that. But for now, let's sing together. We're going to sing As You Go. Let's close those doors. Is anyone near enough that they could close the door for us? Thank you both. I appreciate that. One of our small wizards had to get the rest of their clothes. You know, as we worship together, one of the things that we do is we move through our experiences. And so after the energy and joy of our wisdom story, I want to invite you just to, again, breathe into the space and take a moment for centering in meditation. And I have a blessing to share with you. This is called A Blessing for Kin. It is written by my dear colleague and the godparent of my older child, Sean Parker Dennison. I wish you a single story, not a simple fairy tale with only happiness, but one life without secrets or omissions, without the need for fake faces, one pointed outward, the other inward and real. I wish for you the twin beauties of clarity and consistency, knowing the singular word that holds all of you together, all of you at once, all of you. I wish you no need to hide, no reason to live in shadows or half-truths, no need to cover the spark and sparkle of your heart, to keep it from catching the light of the sun or moon. I wish you wholeheartedness that arises from the liberty before needing to be free, the completeness that precedes breaking, the integrity of your being, a unity undivided and boundless. I wish you a far-reaching welcome from within, full and absolute acceptance, nothing withheld from yourself, unrealized or unfinished. And I wish you a place and a people who do not want you in pieces, incomplete and partial. A world that no longer asks anyone to wrench apart their heart or divide soul from mind, from nature, from core. I bless you with all that is whole. And with this blessing in our hearts, now is the time in our service for sharing our joys and concerns. I'm going to come over to our vessels. I'm in the tall vessel. I'm going to sprinkle a little salt for the tears and sadnesses of the world. Into our larger round vessel, I'm going to sprinkle flower petals, which represent our joys and our deep satisfactions and contentments. And then I'm going to invite you, if you will, you'll come into that center aisle and take a stone and slip it into the vessel that feels like it's right for you. If you have shared a joy, know that we rejoice with you. If you have shared a sorrow, please know that you're held in love and care by this community. Would you put a rock in for the folks at home? Thank you. And Joyce is going to come down and add one last rock for all the joys and the sorrows of our community, which are carried by those who are not with us here today, because our community is one community gathered or apart. And now I'm going to light one candle today as well, because I'm sure many of you are worried about the state of the world and the outbreak of war, so we will also light a candle for peace.
Good morning. Our theme for today's worship is entitled Intersex and Embodiment. We'll be looking together at how we all deserve to live in peace and comfort in our bodies. Now, gender issues are one category of body issues which affect how we experience our lives. And Reverend Audette asked me, as worship associate, if I might be able to recall an experience of my own gender related to this theme. Now, as many of you know, I am a 68-year-old, cisgender, heterosexual, able-bodied white woman in good health. As a woman, I am a member of a gender group that has been minoritized, disrespected, disempowered, subjugated, made the scapegoat, and I've personally experienced some of these. But while I have experienced bigotry toward my gender and limiting expectations for my behavior based on my gender, I have a tough time remembering any significant discomfort with my body due to my gender identification or my gender expression. I have no memory of feeling any gender dysphoria as I was growing up. I never wanted to be anything other than a girl. I've been, for the most part, gender conforming in my appearance. I have no physical differences in my neuromuscular ability that are obvious. I've never been called the F word, that is FAT, and I've never had to face hostility or leave my state in order to have an abortion. I think it's important to recognize that I have not personally experienced these particular kinds of excruciating psychological pain related to our bodies. However, as a pediatrician, I have accompanied many children who have struggled with body issues. Children who have been underestimated because they have a neuromuscular difference or a visual or auditory impairment. Children who've been called the F word by their peers and have been made to feel that their weight is shameful or their own fault, and then had to face me about concerns about their weight because of insulin resistance. I've known many teens with eating disorders and distorted body perceptions that go with these. I've never had a patient who revealed gender dysphoria to me, and I am retired now. I've been retired a number of years. But I did have patients who struggled against their parents and their whole social world because of their non-conforming gender expression. I had one patient who had experienced female genital mutilation as a child. Only twice in my career, and these were in my residency, did I have to tell new parents immediately after delivery that I could not tell by looking at the outside of their newborn's body whether their infant might be a boy or a girl or something in between. I remember the look of fear, panic, and utter confusion in their eyes. Their families and friends were already asking, "Do you have a boy or a girl?" Those parents wanted a decision, an answer now, and I had to say, I don't know. We'll have to consult the geneticist. It will take some time to figure this out. During the years I was in practice, parents of babies who were born with ambiguous external genitalia were in suspense while their infant had a workup to investigate many things, such as chromosomes, the presence or absence of ovaries or testes, blood levels of hormones and hormone receptors and enzymes. And then based on this gathered information, a decision was made to assign a gender. And sometimes this even involved permanent surgery. And this was done long before the child had any chance to reveal their own brain's true gender identity. I didn't get to follow these two patients as they grew up because I met them in residency in the university hospital, and they were discharged to primary care doctors a long ways away. But years later, we learned in the pediatric profession that this practice of assigning gender at birth caused excruciating gender dysphoria for many children as they grew up. More recent medical research confirms the significance of the developing brain in gender identity, and with it, the growing recognition that we need to wait, not only for infants born with ambiguous external genitalia, but for all children. We need to wait patiently for their brain to reveal its true gender identity. And that identity may turn out to be not distinctly male or female, but something in between. So I love the contemporary movement toward gender expansion, especially the expressions of non-binary gender identity that I see around me, and which I hope will eventually help our culture better understand the non-binary nature of gender. I love the freedom I see in this movement. I love it not only for those children of a new generation whose parents and doctors will understand the need to listen to them and support them in their gender identities or nonconforming expressions, but for all of us. If maleness and femaleness become less rigid categories, this change will be liberating to all of us. And even cisgender children growing up in the future will hopefully experience less sexist expectations for their behaviors based on gender, less than those of my generation did. I love this liberating vision. All of this will cause less suffering for children, less depression for teenagers and adults, more freedom for all of us, and I hope a greater flowering of our unique, authentic, whole, and glorious selves.
Will you join us in singing our next hymn? Sorry. Never mind. My bad.
She doesn't really want to preach her sermon. So we share with you the words of Walt Whitman with a slight change to incorporate non-binary language. Each of us inevitable. Each of us limitless. Each of us with their own right upon the earth. Each of us allowed the eternal purport of the earth. Each of us here as divinely as any is here. When we finish singing, we're going to have a brief pause for a short meditation.
Each of us. 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 Inevitable. 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 Each of us inevitable. Each of us. inevitable.
One of the most important things we can ever know about ourselves as human beings is that our brains are designed to create shortcuts. As biological equipment exquisitely evolved to take in massive amounts of data about the world around us, and then to essentially sort it by threat, one of the things it is very best at is creating shortcuts. And that means that we have literal blind spots. For example, right now, you can't see your nose unless you cross your eyes and put a lot of work into it, because your brain has learned to just screen it out as irrelevant data to your survival. So we have vast numbers of biases. Scientists have identified over 180 cognitive biases, and we default regularly to stereotyping and even unconscious prejudice simply to keep upright and walking around. We literally could not function if we had to consciously process, rank, assess threat, and then make decisions based on the overwhelming and constant sensory input we receive. Our wondrous brains are doing huge amounts of work in the background, and most of it's very helpful, but not always. Now, I called this service Intersex Embodiment for all the reasons that Joyce has already outlined so well, but also because the amount that I have learned, as have many others in this congregation and beyond, about the biases, the assumptions, and shortcuts that we have about gender, about sexuality, and the basic biology of gender and sex. It's huge. And so much of it actually has come from the experience of intersex folks. Now, I promise you, there's more to learn about gender, gender expression, biology, and culture than any one of us can accomplish in one lifetime, not to mention in one worship service. But the question that's always in front of us as we gather as people of faith is, why does this matter? And how shall we live together in love? How does what we share this morning touch each one of us? And how does what we learn or what we reflect on help us become more whole, better equipped as moral beings, and help us co-create that better world that I think we dream of? This is why the subheading is Embodiment, because each and every one of us lives in this world in a body. And this life is this sensory festival, and there is nothing, not even the joys of quiet contemplation, that take place outside the realm of our embodiment. Not even our disincorporated children notwithstanding, we really are embodied. And each and every body is different, and over our lifetimes, our experience as living beings embodied in sensory flesh will change. It already has changed. So whenever, wherever, and in any way that people's bodies are the source of punishment, of harm, abuse, or the target of restrictive laws, that is something that affects all of us. So if by some chance you arrived this morning and you think your life is somehow untouched or unconnected to the laws affecting life-saving health care for trans teens, or your coworker who needs an abortion, or if you don't understand the deep connection that we each have to intimate partner violence, or how medical decisions that are made for intersex infants at birth, or how well or poorly we do at making our communities accessible for those of differing abilities and disabilities, well, I'm afraid you're mistaken. The thing is that we all move and live and breathe and have our being in bodies. Cultivating deep respect for the embodied experience of others and trusting them to know themselves, their own embodied experience, and advocating for each and all to live as fully and freely and in safety, that is all of our holy work. So today is a little bit about stories of embodiment and maybe shaking up a few of our assumptions about what we know, what we think we know about bodies. And let's take this example from clinical geneticist Paul James. A 46-year-old pregnant woman had visited his clinic at the Royal Melbourne Hospital in Australia to hear the results of an amniocentesis test to screen her baby's chromosomes for abnormalities. Now, the baby was fine, but follow-up tests had revealed something interesting about the mother. Her body was built of cells from two individuals, probably from twin embryos that had merged in her own mother's womb. And there was more. One set of the cells carried two X chromosomes, and that's the complement that typically makes a person female, and the other had an X and a Y. Halfway through her 5th decade and pregnant with her 3rd child, the woman learned for the first time that a large part of her body was chromosomally male. That's just kind of a science fiction for someone who came in for an amniocentesis, says James. Sex can be much more complicated than it seems at first, sex in the sense of biology and gender. According to this simple scenario, the presence or absence of a Y chromosome is what counts. With it, you're male. Without it, you're female. But doctors have long known that some people straddle the boundary, that their sex chromosomes say one thing, but their gonads or their ovaries or their testes or their sexual anatomy say another. And parents of children with these kind of conditions, which are known, of course, as intersex conditions, or differences of sex development, which is a DSD, differences of sex development, often face difficult decisions about whether to bring up their child as a boy or a girl. Just out of curiosity, is that required? Not necessarily, right? But there is pressure, to put it mildly. Some researchers now say that as many as 1 person in 100 have some form of DSD, 1 person in 100. So look around the room and do the math. The point is only this: biological gender and sex is widely variant, and most of our assumptions about it are cultural shortcuts rather than any sort of form of empirical truth. biological embodiment is just endlessly fascinating. Consider the clownfish. The Ocellaris clownfish exist in matriarchies, headed by the largest and most aggressive member of the school, who rules as a female. Now, she's attended by a male breeding partner with whom she mates monogamously. Her charges are a small cohort of androgynous juveniles who bear the immature reproductive tissues of both sexes. If the female at the top dies, then she leaves a vacancy at the top of this strict clownfish hierarchy. And so to rectify the situation, her male consort will immediately undergo a series of neurological changes and begin to boss and court the smaller fish. And within a matter of days, a new female will also begin to undergo some pretty stark physical transformation, growing rapidly in size as her testes recede back into her body. Yes, that's right. Like a pawn reaching the other end of a chessboard, the former male consort queens up as the whole school's newest female. Anyone who's in this room, maybe you're watching at home, who either identifies as a woman or who has assumed to be female, without question knows the nearly nonstop pressures of that state of being. Am I right? Anyone in here feel that? Ever felt it? Not as many as I would have thought. Okay, well, that's good. Let's see where this leads. Because there's an omnipresent risk. There's a risk of sexual harassment. There's a risk of assault. The exhortations by strangers and others to smile. The tensions of leadership when leadership behavior is seen as too aggressive. Getting constant and unsolicited feedback about one's clothes and hair. I will tell you that in the short time that I've been here, I've had 2 different people tell me I needed a haircut, but I did get one. As a small example, actually, when I was in preparation for ministry, like everyone, I had to do a weekend-long intensive mental health assessment and long-form personality testing. They do that to weed out folks that they think are not equipped for ministry. And at the concluding feedback session, the male psychologist, who had done this testing weekend with his psychologist wife, but I wasn't talking to her, I was just in a room with the male psychologist, told me that I should study his wife's habits of dress and manner, that they would be better suited than my own to the work of ministry. As I hope you already know, clothes and shoes don't do ministry. But people do. So if you're over the age of 60, have you ever had a nurse, a doctor, or even a restaurant server treat you like a child? Maybe they come up and they speak to you slowly or very loudly to make sure they don't even check to see if you might need that accommodation. My guess is probably right, because we use shortcuts, and too often we treat aging bodies as a monolith, as if age alone confers some decreased physical status. It is not one's age that solely determines health or well-being, and having an aging body can be experienced in many ways, including as a great gift. There are plenty of folks who are hiking, swimming, dancing, kayaking, loving, and lifting weights well into their seniorhood, right? But importantly, the relative health of our bodies is not a metric that other people should use for deciding about our quality of life. We, each of us, are the only arbiters of that. Alice Wong is the founder of the Disability Visibility Project. In 1974, Wong was born with spinal muscular atrophy, which is a condition in which the nerve cells and the brain and the spinal cord, they just break down. They cause progressive weakness and atrophy in the muscles in the trunk of the body. When she was 7 or 8, she stopped walking. That was when she was in a wheelchair. Today, she uses a motorized wheelchair and a BPAP machine to breathe, right? And in an interview with the social justice website YOP, Wong was asked this question. She was asked, what are some major misconceptions and beliefs regarding disability issues that you find yourself debunking most often? And Wong answered, there's a lot and the bar is so low. I find myself repeating some of the most basic things, but unfortunately, this is where we are. A few things I try to change regarding narratives and beliefs about disability are that disabled lives are not worth living, that disabled lives are filled with suffering, tragedy, or bitterness, that disabled people take and consume rather than offer rich insights, creativity, and innovation to the world, and that the future is one where disability, pain, and suffering do not exist. This has a lot to do with genetics, mind you. She adds, let's abolish the term special needs. Seriously, we can eschew euphemisms and be more precise on who and what we're talking about. Disability. I feel great ambivalence about what's happened during the pandemic. Suddenly, as non-disabled people were inconvenienced and had things taken away from them, access miraculously became available, despite decades of advocacy by disabled people for accessible classes, remote working, online conferences, performances, and events. During this same period, we've seen a narrowing of access and services for sick, disabled, and immunocompromised people. The rhetoric around high-risk people as acceptable losses is straight-up eugenics, and this also clearly applies to Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities. When we pause and we take very seriously how wide and varied embodied experience is, the very first thing it should invite us to consider is under what circumstances we should enact laws and restrictions that involve other people's bodies. Who are we to decide when a pregnant person should have access to abortion? Who are we to decide whether a trans teen should have access to medical treatment? Under what circumstances should random strangers decide what other people should wear, or how they should perform their gender, or what they should read, or when they begin or end, or even receive at all some kind of health care? You know, those of us who have had cancer know frequently some well-intended but profoundly misguided friend or acquaintance might weigh in about whether or not one should follow the advice of an oncologist, or maybe instead drink an herbal tea or follow an alternative practice that the friend, recommend. Conversely, if someone decides either to not take treatment or to follow an alternative treatment path, it's their life, their body, their holy journey on this bright blue planet. We may offer advice if consulted, but it's worth having deep humility in the face of someone's decisions about what is right for them. And more than anything, we should believe people when they tell us who they are and what they are experiencing. What I hope this reflection offers us is the reminder that each of us carries this living flesh of our being in our own sacred and holy way. We may share things in common, and there may be experiences and joys and sufferings that we can have some understanding of one another. But it is not ours to judge the beauties or the sufferings of others. Instead, let us bear witness, offer compassion or care, and bow our heads in acknowledgement of one another's integral and personal sovereignty of our own experience and our own self-knowledge. You know, Ram Dass said, we're all just walking each other home. May we look in wonder at one another and remember this is our beloved work, to walk each other home. Amen, Ashe, blessed be.
Or spirit, as you are able, and join us in singing hymn number 1053, How could anyone? Before we talk about our announcements, we would like to welcome any of you who are visitors with us today. If this is your first time with us and you've never introduced yourself, or maybe it's your second or third time and you've never introduced yourself, we would love for you to stand up or raise your hand, and one of the ushers will bring you a microphone. If you could, please tell us your name and where you are from.
Hi. My name is Mark Richards. He, him are my pronouns. I am from Door County, Wisconsin. We're in town this weekend to visit my wife's sister.
My name is Sam Marin. I'm here with my grandson, Josiah Oakes. He and I are I'm a full-time live-in granddaddy for him for 3 weeks while his parents, Asha and Jacob, are on a 20-year wedding anniversary. I live up near Burnsville.
We've been coming here, but I just feel a need sometimes especially to reintroduce my husband, Norris Orbach. And he has been coming here for over 45 years when he was married to someone else who died. And his kids came up through this church, through the RE, and it was wonderful for them. And he now has dementia, but it's the kind of dementia that leaves his brain pretty intact. He has better memory than me. And when you see him crying, it's because he misses things. It's not some kind of weird automatic. He misses singing, and he misses other things he sees, but he gets pleasure from being here because he knows so many people from here, and they come over sometimes even when they don't know him, and they talk with him. Or, he can't answer, but he gets great pleasure out of that. So, anyone welcome to come by and say hi. He may or may not respond, but it's something that's very meaningful to Norris.
Hi there, we are Andy and Robin Smith. My husband Andy used to be a member here about 10 years ago with our kids, Emmy and Eli. We're here with my dad, Dan, and we're visiting Matt and Julie Ransom. So.
From Durham.
I'm Andrew Donofrio. We're here as guests today for the Opportunity Fair. I represent an organization whose mission is to serve children, to help the least of those among us, if you will. So I just want to say thank you for allowing us to come and talk about the work that we do, and please come by and say hi.
Welcome.
Hello, my name's Hannah Joy. I'm from a very rural area in Missouri, and I'm here to I've spent the last week with my grandson, who just turned 12 today, while his parents and sister were gone. So I'm very happy to be in Asheville and to be here. I'm a UU at a small fellowship in West Plains, Missouri.
Welcome.
Is that everyone? Well, thank you so much for introducing yourselves. We're really glad to have you with us. And please join us in Sandberg Hall after the service and take in our Opportunity Fair. Even if you're not a visitor, please take in our Opportunity Fair. Our announcements ran as slides at the beginning of the service. If you missed them, please refer to Thursday's weekly e-news where everything is described. And if you don't receive the e-news, you may ask an usher to show you how to sign up. And now I believe Margaret McAllister and Tori Schmitz have an announcement for us.
Lord. Hey, Britta.
Wait for most of this summer. I'm just getting back into the swing of things. Are we having an auction this year?
Britta, yes, we are. The date of the auction gala is November 11th. The auction will be an in-person event again.
No Zoom.
Yes, we are hopefully done with that. We'll be at the AB Tech Conference Center. It has a super facility with an adjacent parking garage right on the AB Tech Central Campus. It's completely accessible, no steps.
What else? Tell me more.
We'll have food, music, a live auction with music by our very own house band, the Sandburgers, and dancing after dinner. The theme this year is November 11th. The great outdoors.
This is sounding great. What sort of things will be auctioned off?
Well, once again, we are focusing on events, skills, and services, things that will get people together throughout the year. We'll also have handmade or home-baked and craft items in the online and silent auction.
Oh gosh, I don't think I have any talents to share.
Everybody can be involved. Help her out, folks. What ideas do you have for this poor gal who can't think of anything to donate? Gardening services, help do your leaf raking or weed pulling. What else?
Guided hike.
A guided hike. We got great country here for hiking. What else?
What about buddying up with a talented friend?
That's right. If you don't want to do something all by yourself, buddy up with a friend to offer something together. What else?
You can offer a service such as leaf raking, lawn mowing, or pet sitting.
Oh, yeah. What else?
Make a dessert.
Make a dessert.
Yeah, you just love to eat. Maybe bake some brownies or some cookies.
You bet. We do love to eat.
Wow, these sound like real possibilities. I can figure out something to contribute. When's the deadline for donations?
The deadline for turning in your donations is coming up, October 29th. Information and donation forms are on the church website and right across the hall in Sandberg Hall.
Really? I'm going to figure out something today. Head over to the auction table.
The auction is fantastic. I hope you're making your plans to be there. And a quick announcement from me. I just want to make sure that folks are starting to be aware that we are in a process of trying to determine a few of how we're going to focus our energies in the social justice area as a congregation. And so at our Vespers in October, we started a list of priorities that people have. They're not necessarily top priorities priorities yet. Those are listed now on a form, and if you want to visit that and see what the priority list currently looks like, and if you see something you care about that's not on there, you can add it. We're going to be doing that throughout October, and then in November, we're going to start a process of sort of a ranked choice voting process, so we can determine our 2 or 3 top priorities as a congregation. So that is in that Thursday email. Make sure you look. There's just a link you can click. And next week, we'll also have a board in social hour, but it's too busy today. I didn't want to mix it in. But you can find it there, so we can help prioritize our events. And last but not least, if anybody wants to come to our housewarming, just let us know so we can get you that information. We hope to see many of you there.
And now it's time for our offering. Our community plate partner this month is Transmission, a trans-led organization whose mission is to make the lives of transgender, non-binary, and gender-divergent people safer, happier, and healthier through education, advocacy, and support. You can contribute by writing Community Plate in the menu of your check. Please help us support both our congregation and our community partner. Today's offering will now be collected and gratefully received. If this is the first time for you with us here, please let the collection plate pass you by. This service is our gift to you, and your presence is your gift to us. For the gifts of your faith and wisdom, your attention and presence, your time and your resources, we are grateful.
Over my head, I see freedom in
These words of benediction were written by Mark Moser de Wolf. With what benediction shall I leave you? This: in your life, may you know the holy meaning, the mystery that breaks into at every moment. May you live at peace with your world and at peace with yourself. And may the love of truth guide you in your everyday. And now let us sing together the words of our closing song, our closing blessing with one another. Please rise as you're willing and able to do so. Afterwards, join us at the Opportunity Fair.